Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. Now, the coalition of civil society organizations for local government reforms in Ghana is calling on the Akufo-Addo government to abandon the idea of superintending the election of metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives on partisan lines. The group, which has renewed the push for the election of MMDCEs, argued that the current administrative structure at the local assembly is fraught with significant challenges, which is impacting negatively on the developmental growth at the local level, insisting the election of the CEOs for the assembly would largely address the challenges. President Akufo-Addo in 2019 truncated the process for the election of local authorities, citing lack of consensus. But a member of the CSO coalition, Kofi Bento, addressing the media, observed that government must first prioritize the election of MMDCEs before introducing their election on partisan lines.
All right, so let us get this clear. There is overwhelming support for this. At the point where we were going to effect those things, the current government introduced a second phase. That phase is not necessary for the local government reforms. It is additional. And that second phase is to have it done on a partisan basis. So let me explain. We can today ask our parliamentarians to amend the constitution and we will elect DCEs from tomorrow. That is what the overwhelming number of Ghanaians want. Both NDC and MPP want. We have not heard any dissent to that, and that can be done. At a point where we're going to do it, a tertiary level, a different phase, another, ultimate goal was added to it, which is to say, let's do it on a partisan basis. Why I'm stressing this point is this. It is not necessary to have partisan elections for us to have local government elections. So it is not exactly accurate to say there was a breakdown in consensus. The breakdown was that it was not necessary. Let us not complicate it. Now, sometimes we elevate a footnote and make it the keynote. That small footnote of whether to make it partisan or not, became the keynote. And on that basis, the whole thing was scuttled. We are back here today to emphasize the substantive point, which we all agree on. And that is that we must have local government reforms to the effect of electing local government officials, DCEs, MCEs, and the like. And that much as we will desire, or some of us will desire, that it be done on a partisan basis, we think that we should first have the elections done, have people into office chosen by the people, and then later on, if we want to, we can add the icing on the cake, which is to make it partisan or not.
Meanwhile, the coalition has today begun a nationwide consultation with stakeholders to rally support for the election as part of moves to pile pressure on President Akufo-Addo to reinitiate the processes for the election. Dr. Kojo Asante of CDD has been speaking to my colleague Kwesi Parker-Wilson.
There are many issues, and the verdict on local government is really, really bad. It's not functional. So whatever we are going to do, there has to be complementary reforms. And I think that will probably help us better in deciding that we want non-partisan or partisan. I mean, so, as some of my colleagues have said, just the election alone is sufficient to make a change. At least even with this appointment process, we will get people that the citizens will feel that they put them there. And they know that they can always, in 4 years' time, they have to go and seek their mandate. So already it established an accountability relationship like with MPs. And we know that that works. But it is not necessarily a guarantee that you're going to have local development or local democracy. So that's why we are saying, yes, election is important, but it's not sufficient. And let's see how we can add to it.
In all of this, the president is very central and very key in this matter. Have you officially petitioned him? Have you spoken to him about the new process?
No, I think the process as we understand it is that if the consensus is going to build, it's not just political actors having a consensus. So it's not even just MPP and NDC having a consensus. It's what even chiefs, what they think, what is their role, how are they going to, because if they feel threatened that this process is not going to marginalize them or exclude them from local development, then they might not even support it. What about local assembly members? What about the political parties at local government level? So this is the kind of work that we government would have done. But we see that, okay, there are some divergent views, at least on the party side. If civil society can come together and take up this responsibility and bring these actors and parties together, when we have the collective voice and we present it to government, it should persuade and be persuasive for us to move forward. So that is the job that we want to be doing from the next 3 weeks, and we'll go into the next year as well. And we are working with the ministry, to also let them know what citizens are thinking, what different groups are thinking, so that if they have to submit a memo to Parliament, to Cabinet, for a roadmap, that at least they will be informed by what is on the ground.
Well, Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante joins us on the line. He's the Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement at the CDD. Thank you very much, Doc, for your time here on The Pulse. With the local government minister, Dan Botre, in the wake of the election of MMDCEs, did say that the Akufo-Addo administration was going to build on what is started during the first administration, and that a process was already underway to reinitiate this. Does this renewed calls from CSO suggest you are not in the know or not involved in this process?
Yeah, good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers, to your listeners. No, I mean, we've been working closely with the ministry. We have met the ministry, I believe, twice to engage on this matter. The minister has given assurance that this is a priority of government. It's something that is part of the ministry's priorities for the coming years. So basically, for us, this effort is really to help the ministry, take an informed position, because basically what has to happen, the ministry has to submit a plan to Cabinet for approval, a roadmap of some sort, how we get to that destination. So yes, no, I mean, we see the working with the ministry as key, because at the end, it's the executive that has the power to be able to help initiate these processes. And we want to make sure that we are all, on the same page in terms of what we need to do to be able to get a consensus. Because remember, when the president truncated the process, he expressed the frustration with a lack of consensus. And the charge was that, we have to find broad-based consensus. So for me, that, I think, is the marching orders for everybody, that at the end we need to be able to come together and agree on how we move forward. And I think that we have started this process because we believe that we need to push it. We can't wait, till, government gets there or other stakeholders get there. We need to kind of help push people to get this agenda completed.
Doesn't it appear to you or come across to you that government has already a position on this matter? You say that this process is to help government take a position, but the president was quite clear. First of all, there's common ground, which is the fact that MMDCEs must be elected. But the president is very much convinced that this must be done on partisan lines. In fact, the minister reiterated the same point months ago. Is this not a done deal as far as government is concerned?
Well, I mean, first of all, as I said, it's the president's own charge that the consensus has to be built. So, yes, the executive or the current MPP ruling government, they have its position, and I think that position is known because in the manifesto, that is the position that has been expressed. The opposition NDC also has a position, and it's been expressed. Civil society, even in 2019, there were different positions. But at least we have come into this debate realizing that at the end, we have to be able to work together to get a common position. The survey that CDD did is clear that yes, elections are desired by a supermajority of citizens in this country. The preference for non-partisan election is also very, very strong. But what we also picked up was that even if you do elections today or tomorrow, the verdict on the dysfunctionality of the local government system cannot be ignored. We have to seriously think about what other things we have to do to make this work. And that's where a lot of the debate, because that even itself helps us in discussing whether or not we want to elect, via partisan means or non-partisan means. We know that you can, in terms of the amendments that you have to make, 2431 is easiest. You get to test majority. You can even, do that now and put it on the shelf whilst you wait for other things to happen. So that's for us, there is ways in which we can come to some common purpose. It's clear what citizens are saying about elections. And I think nobody can walk away from that. The key thing about partisan and non-partisan, as I said, comes back to what is going to deliver. Is it going to deliver? If, for example, the non-partisan election, together with the complementary reforms, would deliver development based on everybody's understanding and appreciation, then I don't have any problem. We should go ahead and do the election.
Okay.
Because doing nothing is not an option. So that's the key. And I think from whichever side you come from, you have to be able to prepare to listen to the arguments on both sides.
But Dr. Santi, one of the things, and you talk about this functionality at the local government level, one of the things that has really challenged the effective running is apathy, and that is quite clear. Now, the whole idea of the president and his ministers, and indeed this government, of running this on partisan lines is to whip up interest, get people to participate, a participation that will be encouraging enough to gather people to be concerned about issues affecting them within their locality. Is that not a viable, a very good response to cure that issue?
Yes, and that is an argument that also has to be put to the people. I mean, in the consultations, we are meeting chiefs, we are meeting assembly members, we are meeting CBOs, opinion leaders in those places. We are meeting media. We are meeting all manner of actors on the ground to also put these things, because that pushback is important. Because what we keep saying is that it's not, even when you say non-partisan, you have to envisage, for example, how do you deal with monetization of the political process? Because you will come back to the same problem, whether partisan or non-partisan, if the process is about vote buying, if the process is about monetization. Then we are back to zero. So how are we going to even deploy a non-partisan election to make sure that the cost of actually participating is minimized? Should it was part of the process to bring the common platforms, to put a cap on expenditure. How are you going to do all of these things? These are some of the conversations we must have, because if we don't do that, whatever we will do, we might come back to this issue just a few years down the line, or even complicate the current situation that we are in. So we are open. I think people should make their debate strong, but for us, the key is that after we've gone through all of these things, and the people still desire non-partisan elections, I think that as leaders, with all the benefits, they justified all the benefits. You look at all the possibilities you can get. There's no reason why we shouldn't go forward with it. If we go around and people see the other argument for for partisan elections, for example, like grooming political parties at the local level rather than excluding them from the process, that you help them to build capacity to govern, and therefore they don't come to national level to come and experiment. That is also another argument somebody puts in place.
Very well. So and this has just started. Things
have to be engaged.
And Doc, just briefly before you go, are you working with timelines in this renewed campaign
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely windows that we have to take advantage of.
Okay.
Because the next 10 year, I think, ends 2023 or so. And so people have said, okay, do you add it to the 2024 election so that you basically elect everybody in one election? It might actually save cost. Some people say, well, the best way to place an election, a local government election, is midterm. So that you can use that to basically, incentivize any government in office to work harder when they are after an election rather than wait for the next election. So these are also design issues that we have to look at.
Dr. Popuni Asante, thank you very much for joining us. That's the Director of Advocacy and Policy at the Center for Democratic Development, CDD.